So the second type of non-probability sampling that we have here is purposive sampling. So purposive sampling is a non-probability sampling technique in which samples are selected based on the researcher's judgment or specific criteria. So in this method, the researcher intentionally selects individuals who met certain characteristics or criteria that are relevant to the research question. So purposive sampling is useful when the researcher wants to study a specific group or phenomena and needs to identify individuals who have relevant knowledge, experience, or characteristics. So judgment sampling or purposive sampling is a common non-probability method. The sample is selected based upon the judgment and an extension of convenience sampling. So when using this method, the researcher must be confident that the chosen sample is truly representative of the entire population. So if you look into the animation one more time, here the researcher is at the center. This researcher is gonna judgmentally, purposefully selecting some of the participants based on the he will identify the individuals who have a knowledge, experience, characteristic. So that's what he is doing. So he is at the center, is finding out the individuals based on certain criteria such as knowledge, experience, or relevant experience and relevant characteristics. So that's what he did. He is at the center, but he has caught various people from his experience, keeping that respective characteristics in mind. So now let's take a similar example and understand uh, purposive sampling. So to purposive or judgment sampling. So suppose same example, we'll be taking the same example. A researcher wants to investigate the attitudes of students towards online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. Suppose a researcher wants to investigate the experiences of individuals, but this time we'll move on to the another example saying a researcher wants to investigate the experiences of individuals who have recovered from COVID-19. So this is our problem statement for him. This is what he wants to do. Yep. So the researcher decides to use purposive sampling to select individuals who have recovered from COVID-19 and can provide insights into their experiences. The researcher identifies potential participants through social media group. So how the researcher is going to do? The researcher identifies potential participants through social media groups for COVID-19 survivors and selects the individuals who meet criteria and such as age, gender, and severity of illness, and length of recovery time. So the researcher then contacts these individuals and invites them to participate in the study. The researcher then contacts these individuals and invites them to participate in the study. We can take one more example, the most concrete example. I think you have watched the Kashmir Files. The Kashmir Files is genocide of Hindus in Kashmir uh, by Muslims there. That's what had happened. So when the director wanted to make a movie on the Kashmir Files, so he has to gone through the complete survey, complete research. Okay, that research he has done to the individuals. The first priority, he has put some criteria. The criteria, the either the one should be the family who has suffered through the brutal killing and genocidal acts from the Muslims of Kashmir and the terrorists from Pakistan those days, and he has taken certain age criteria, and so keeping these uh, keep and whether they are available and whether they are willing to participate and all, keeping these criteria in mind, he has gone for the purposive or judgment sampling. That's what the director of the movie Vivek Agnihotri has done. So the Kashmir Files movie, the research for the Kashmir Files has is nothing but a purposive or judgment sampling. So the sampling technique is useful in situations where the researcher wants to study a specific group or phenomenon and where it is important to select individuals who have relevant knowledge or experience. However, this method can introduce This method can introduce bias into the results as the sample may not be representative of the larger population, and individuals who do not meet the specific criteria may be excluded from the study. So, this is what is purposive sampling. In general, purposive sampling can be a useful technique when used appropriately, but it is important to be aware of its limitations and potential biases. The researcher should clearly define the criteria for selection and justify the use of purposive sampling in the research design.